Hello, English 11 class. The next mini lesson we're going to do with Tuesdays with Maury is a little bit different of a topic that you may have been exposed to. I think conflict, setting, characterization, topics like those you've probably been exposed to over the years in your other English classes. Well, the topic we're going to talk about is juxtaposition, and this is a somewhat complex literary device. Juxtaposition is simply the author using kind of polar opposite images or characters to kind of show a wealth of perspectives. It's usually one thing versus a different thing to show how they differ from each other. So when you think about Cinderella Man, the obvious example of juxtaposition is wealth versus poverty, and we see that with Jim having to beg for money, where Jim needs money, and then there's other people that have money. There's a great scene where as Jim Braddock is walking to go to New York City to beg money from the boxing community, the boxing promoters, he walks down the sidewalk and it passes an apartment building, and out of the apartment building comes this family who are all dressed very nicely. They get into a chauffeured limousine. A child has like a big, huge sucker candy. A dad has presents tucked under his arm. Jim literally walks through this very wealthy family as he's about to go beg for money. That's a great example of juxtaposition, wealth versus poverty in Cinderella Man. Think about Tuesdays with Maury, how Mitch, the author, juxtaposes health versus sickness, where even though Maury is sick, he actually has a better outlook on life, who Mitch, who's healthy, has kind of a weakened outlook on life. So think about that for juxtaposition. Another example for juxtaposition that I wrote in the mini lesson on Blackboard from Cinderella Man is Joe, Jim's trainer, versus Mr. Johnson. Here's what I wrote. Joe, as Jim's trainer, wants nothing but the best for Jim, whereas Mr. Johnson, Jim's fight promoter, is only worried about his own self-interest. Joe is selfless in how he treats Jim, whereas Mr. Johnson is selfish in how he treats Jim. So just a different example of a kind of polar opposite approach at something. So the second to last mini lesson, juxtaposition. Think about the polar opposites that Mitch, as the writer, uses in Tuesdays with Maury. Write down some ideas to help you kind of break that concept down, and we'll have one more mini lesson after this one, and then we'll do some final summative work with Tuesdays with Maury very shortly after that. As always, please email me any questions. I'm happy to help. Look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, everyone.